Well, hello everyone. It's a packed audience tonight. I'm not surprised because congratulations, Dr. Mithal. You are the author of a book that everyone is dying to get their hands on. The most Googled search item right now is not Pedro Pascal. It's not the desification of Wimbledon. It's these advanced weight drugs. And ladies and gentlemen, this is an authoritative book on the subject. Doctor, I'm going to start first by focusing on the craft. I know everybody wants to get down to the other issues, but I want to ask you first about why you choose to write this book. You've said in this book that no other medical issue has gained as much attention, it's true, as this has, except for perhaps COVID-19. So what led you or who led you to put together and compile this book?
Thank you, and happy to be here. Welcome all of you. So I think there are several reasons, but I'll stick to two reasons why I wrote this. One, of course, is that the biggest problem facing society as a whole is weight. And people are struggling with weight all the time. And as doctors who deal with hormones, as endocrinologists, we were lacking tools to handle it, other than the diet and lifestyle, which is the basis even now. And then straight away, at one extreme, go to surgery. Yeah. But the in-between area of any medication that can actually help people lose weight was just nothing. It was a void. And that has been sort of addressed to some extent, and this is just the beginning, by these relatively newer molecules. So that's why they've caught the eye of everyone, attention and eye of everyone across the world. It's not just in India, everywhere. People are sort of flocking in drugs to, learn more, know more, get prescriptions, whatever. So that is one part. The second part is that as someone who treats diabetes and chronic disorders, these drugs offered a different kind of hope. Because when we treat diabetes, what are we doing? We're trying to prevent complications. Complications of the eye, of the heart, of the kidney, of the liver. So far, what we've been doing is correct the blood glucose, correct the blood pressure, correct the cholesterol, rectify all these things, and you'll probably protect it. But the drug wasn't acting directly on the organs. So the beneficial effect of the drug was through the blood glucose. Now, for the first time, there's another group called SGLT2 inhibitors, which are also good. But for the first time, we had solid drugs that actually directly reduced heart attacks by 20%, treated fatty liver to a large extent, reduced progression of kidney disease. So, in both these ways, it's very exciting. There's no doubt about that. So.
You said hope, but in a country where we have about 250 million people living with obesity or weight loss or diabetes, we're the diabetes capital of the world, the announcement of these weight loss drugs comes both with hope but also with alarm. Everything that you mentioned, you haven't mentioned weight loss. Are you worried that what is a side effect, a positive side effect of these medicines is now overtaking the actual need for this medicine?
So I think what we need to understand is that these are medications. What will you do for your diabetes medication? You wouldn't start it on your own. You wouldn't just if you start popping these drugs like candy, not a good example, candy for an obesity talk, but nevertheless, if you just pop them like churan, they can be dangerous, of course. So the question is that they're generally very safe drugs, but they have to be used under medical supervision, on prescription, because one fundamental point is that endocrinologists in particular, but doctors in general, look at excess fat or obesity as a disease, as a condition. Even if you don't want to use the word disease as a stigma, that's what the WHO says, but we still say it's a condition. So, if you're looking at it like that, because you're worried about the excess fat causing a whole lot of problems, you're looking at treatment for that. How the public perceives it is cosmetic, of much of the public. So that is a challenge, of course, because if you think of them purely as cosmetic drugs, you'll be driven to misuse them, and then of course there is an issue. So if you're treating health or treating disease towards better health and you're getting cosmetic benefits, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So both go hand in hand. But if you're doing it purely to lose 2 kilograms or, just something, because we hear this all the time, daughter's wedding.
I have a wedding coming up.
Daughter's wedding. So I want to fit into my old clothes. And doc, you have to help me. And friends wives, I can't do it, please. He says, no, but I'm 55, I want to be 52. How do I answer that? So there is no end to what human, desire is. So I think that desire for perfection is a challenge. Treating obesity like a condition is a huge benefit. Huge benefit.
So the R&D in the obesity sector is tremendous, right? It's every month or so you hear some new development in the papers, and at any point of time they say right now there could be 100 drugs that are being in the clinical trial stages all over the world. So take us through the basics. When you have so many options, when you have a cupboard that's full, what do you pick? Could you just take us through what's out there?
So the cupboard of obesity medications has been bare. I've been in endocrinology for 40 years now. Nothing works. No medication has worked properly, and if they did, there were too many other issues with them. So actually, this is the first time we are beginning to populate that cupboard.
Yeah.
But these drugs, as a whole, they are called GLP-1 drugs. GLP-1. GLP-1 is a hormone secreted by our gut. Hence, the effects are related to the gut. Those who have used it might know. So, it's a hormone secreted by our gut. And it goes to the pancreas, stimulates insulin. It goes to the stomach and reduces the movement of stomach, slows down. But it also goes to the brain and controls our satiety and appetite. So, in normal situations, the hormone is circulating in our blood, so it tells us to stop eating, for example. Right? So that hormone, so these drugs mimic that. Now these drugs have been used for people with diabetes, this class of drugs, for 20 years. So this feeling they're brand new is not right. For 20 years we've been using GLP-1 drugs in treating diabetes. The issue is that and they all had a weight loss effect. But the weight loss effect was only 3 kilograms, 4 kilograms, 5 kilograms. Now when semaglutide in about 10 years ago, first showed that you can lose 15%. So that came as a huge change. So they kept modifying the molecule by molecular biology till they hit on a formula where, of course, the anti-diabetic effect also improves, but the weight loss became so significant. That's when it went through the roof. So the class of drugs we are very comfortable with. I myself, anyone as senior as me would have 20 years of follow-up with patients on those drugs. You may have heard the earlier names Victoza or Trulicity and all. They're the same class of drugs. So, but this is a breakthrough because of the magnitude of weight loss. So there are two in that. So, and there are many more, as you said, in the pipeline because this field has just exploded and they've cracked the code as to how to lose that much weight. Newer drugs may have even 25% weight loss. And so many other things. So, it's a very interesting area.
So, it's an area where all of this is just exploding. But let me ask you, you've called this book The Weight Loss Revolution. But the high costs of these drugs right now really make it out of reach for most Indians. And we have Sumaya here, great. Or at least maybe the Indians who really need it the most right now. So, how is this a revolution if it's only the wealthy who are walking around with quote-unquote Ozempic face?
You're absolutely right. At the moment, firstly, regardless of the time we are in, the times we are in, these drugs are not an answer to India's obesity problem. No way. Our obesity is increasing exponentially, even in smaller towns, even in villages, in all strata of society, especially abdominal obesity, which is the hallmark of Indians. So the drugs will never be an answer to India's public health problem. That has to be prevention, healthy food, regular exercise, so that you don't reach the stage when you even think of drugs or treatment. It's prevention, especially in childhood. Proper nutrition for mothers, for women who are pregnant. Those are the ways we'll attack that. But the issue is that there are enough people who actually have crossed that line. There are enough people who need help. Now, at least as a doctor, I have the capacity to help my patients. Otherwise, I was severely restricted. There was nothing to offer. Nutritionist, diet, exercise, it works fine. If it doesn't, or patient is somehow, whatever happens, it doesn't work, then what do I do? I'm left with nothing. So these drugs offer that sort of, as I said, fill that gap.
Resort. You're saying it's a last resort?
No, it's not the last resort. But there will definitely be people with chronic conditions where they will not be last. Supposing I see a person with type 2 diabetes who has a body mass index of, say, 33. Nothing unusual in that. Very common. I mean, why should I wait for anything? Because I'm going to protect his heart, protect his kidney, protect his liver. If economics is not an issue, I would use it right away. So there is definitely a category of people. Now we also know those who have BMIs over 35, for example, even if they don't have any disease, actually even over 30, it's incredibly hard. And there will always be examples to the contrary. I have some amazing patients who did everything on their own, reversed their diabetes, but the number is small. If you sit with me one day in the outpatient clinic, you will realize the frustration of people who come and visit you. People are breaking down because they really can't lose weight. They've tried everything. So I think that's really important. One point I forgot to address, and I think that's really important, the cost you said. Out of reach of most people. I think that's very important to understand that every new drug that comes in is out of reach for vast majority of our countrymen. But it's also important to understand that it's a matter of time before they become much less expensive and easily affordable by large tracts of population. So we have to hang in there, because if you just break patent laws, then nobody will bring new drugs to India. So I think we have to just hold our horses a little bit. Even next year, I expect the prices will start coming down.
So I want to follow up on the patents, but since Sumaya is here, let's bring her in. We're so glad you could make it. I can imagine. Well, thank you for rushing. But let me ask you, because Sumaya has been in the field of, as you talk about prevention, you spent over 2 decades working with health, fitness, wellness, and all of these issues in this industry. So how did you take in this book? Because the buzzword in your work, and also from what I've seen of your public persona, is, eat healthy, eat local, movement every day, workout. There's no quick, no cosmetic fix. So what was your main takeaway, and what did you feel when you read this book?
So, firstly, thank you all for being patient and waiting for me. Palak, thank you. I heard the whole conversation. My voice is very loud, actually. My team was such a rock star to actually plug me into the conversation from the beginning, so I have continuity. Dr. Ambrish Mithal, you're extremely reputed. I haven't met you in person, which is a good thing, because I didn't need you. But I have sent a lot of patients your way. And I loved reading the book. I think it was an easy read. I think everybody who takes the book today will get a lot of answers in the book, questions. So I'm actually one of those people within the health and wellness and fitness space who have been actually I have to be very careful before I say this, very pro the drug actually. I have had many clients who I've seen in the last 2 decades who've struggled with their weight, especially women and men, women above the age of 30, men when they wake up above the age of 40, and they are, so let me backtrack a little bit. When you're obese, when you cross BMIs of 35, 40, you have an option to do bariatric. Even when you do a bariatric surgery, there is massive muscle loss. You are put on food. You have to look after your protein. You have to do X, Y, Z to actually change your lifestyle. So a bariatric surgery, and the reason I talk out of experience is because over my career, I've had 3 bariatric patients who've continued to train with me up until today. So I've actually kind of seen their journey. So the bariatric was just a push for them to say, okay, this is what I can do because I can't do it myself. And there are too many medical complications that they would have had if they didn't do it. But they still had to do a massive lifestyle change of eating adequate protein, of making sure they were weight training, because the muscle loss was immense even there. Here now coming back with women who are just 10 kilos, 20 kilos, 25 kilos overweight. Let's take the men in general. Metabolic disorders are very, very, very prevalent in our society. And by metabolic disorders, Doc, correct me if I'm wrong, is all related to obesity, the excess sugar that you've been consuming, not just white chini. A lot of times when I'm talking to people, they say, oh, मैं तो चीनी नहीं खाती, but आप खाते हो because आप white bread खाते हो, आप pasta खाते हो. It's all converting into sugar, right? And as an Indian population, we don't eat enough protein that helps slow down the release of insulin, balance the sugar that needs to be taken. So there's a whole scientific pathway that is totally disturbed by primarily the way we eat, which people who I've seen lose weight, I've always struggled. They're stuck in that vicious cycle. 2 kilos, 3 kilos, 5 kilos, then they'll bounce back. And this constant struggle with losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight. It's a very mentally traumatic for them. 2, society, especially Instagram, is not helping it because, women are driven by aesthetics. So it's a lot of mental anguish as well. 3, for men, it leads them to metabolic disorders, brings them closer to heart disease. For women, it really disrupts their hormones. So you could be perimenopausal just because of the way you're eating at the ages of 35, 36, which is why everybody is really talking about perimenopause today. Because everything, whether it's cancer, whether it's metabolic disorder, whether it's perimenopause, whether it's inflammation, whether it's gut, it's all related to the diet. Coming back to the drug now, because I've given a little bit of science from my end. I am now currently training at least 18 to 20 people across all my gyms who are on the GLP drug. And I can tell you this. It's been a massive confidence boost where they've been able to get over that tipping point of saying, now I can take charge of my life. Because earlier they were stuck in that little cycle. Now when they're seeing results, which are not that tedious, it's a one shot. Yes, it takes a little bit of time. You need to be under a doctor. You need to adjust your dose. The side effects, I would like to say, are minimal if done very well under Dr. Ambrish. I've sent a lot of people to him. But when you reach that motivational point, there's such a big lifestyle change that I've seen with all 18 people. There are people who worked out with me in the past, so I've seen their journey when they were struggling earlier. Now all of a sudden we're just more mindful that they themselves are more mindful of eating adequate protein, which is not just the 0.8 grams. We are trying to make sure that they're eating 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. They're resistance training. They themselves, because now food is not noise in their mind. Where am I eating my next meal? That noise is got shut down. It's not about what's my next meal. And for people like me, it's very easy to shut that noise. I think my GLP-1 is on the high. But for 90% of the people, shutting out the noise of food is very tough. Their holidays are designed around food. So if you ask me, I think this is going to be revolutionary in many ways than one. It is going to really help women, not just men. It's going to help women with their hormones. There's a proper research and science about longevity, insulin as a hormone, how it affects perimenopause, how postmenopausal women will benefit from it, how do you prevent yourself from heart disease. So I think this is going to be, and by the way, for a lot of time, a little before this, again, I'm not the doctor, but I intensively read, metformin itself was being pitched as a longevity drug because everybody realized it's the sugar that's creating all this havoc. So I'm probably the only one in my community who's not saying, oh my God, you need to lose weight naturally. Of course, you need to lose weight naturally, but sometimes you really do need help. And the help, then the benefits outweigh the risk. I'm sorry it was so long, but I just needed
I think you made a really brilliant comment, and I think it requires your brilliance exploded. So I think it requires a combination of things, and as you very rightly pointed out, and you've spent your career doing that, lifestyle measures will be the key. A lot of it can be tackled. But as you very well acknowledge, which again shows that, you're dealing with real people, that it is very frustrating.
Very.
And that point about people getting motivated, because they lose some weight and then, going into overdrive sometimes actually is very well taken because they've tried everything all their life. 20 years they've been struggling. You ask my patients, diet to har samay diet pe hi rehte. Koi na koi diet to kar hi rahe hote.
Well, they can all write a book, by the way. Every single client of my gym can write a book themselves. Like, they can probably prescribe me a diet now.
So obviously there is something that was missing, and the action of these drugs on the brain is what has proved to be the turning point.
Two important points, but you mentioned overdrive, right? So, to pick up what you were talking about earlier, you said in the next year the patents are going to be expiring, and we know India has a history. We're a country where manufacturers can give you the generics, which have worked fantastically when it comes to the health industry. But in this case, then what about misuse? Drugs being used without a prescription. You mentioned pharmacovigilance in your book, but honestly, doctor, that's not really where India's strong point is, right?
So that is a challenge. There's no doubt about that, and it bothers me all the time actually, because of not because of anything else, because of the cosmetic impact of the drugs. The temptation to use them will be a lot, and I think that we need to have very strict regulation. On paper, actually, it's pretty well regulated. But the thing is that how will it be implemented? And, we are sitting in Delhi and Gurgaon is maybe slightly different as you move away from the metros, how well regulated our drug system is. That will be a challenge. I really don't have a satisfactory answer to that, except that this should be enforced very, very strictly. So my fear in that is that people who don't need the drug, or are not appropriate candidates for the drug, if they misuse the drug and they get side effects and then it comes out in the newspaper and TV and everything everywhere, and then those who actually need it and are really going to benefit, they get scared. So this is a big challenge. I said, it's not you. Only if you misuse, there is a problem.
You go from no regulation to over-regulation, and then those who actually need it pay a price. But Sumaya, if there is only pharmacovigilance on paper, not really implemented otherwise, no regulation to oversee the sales on the black market, non-label usage, are we sitting on a ticking time bomb?
Just like with any other drug. If you go in there and self-medicate even with something as simple as aspirin and do prolonged overuse or even like cough syrup, of course you're sitting on a ticking time bomb. So the first thing I want to say is, honestly, I've done this for 30 years of my life, this profession. There is no magic pill. And trust me, the GLP-1 drugs are not a magic pill. It's not like you're going to ingest it and you're going to be thin or whatever. It's not. It is just aiding you one step closer to a natural way and handling your system inside. A very strong chemical balance that your body needs to have. It's helping you just adjust that. But the lifestyle change is a byproduct of the fact that you're no longer constantly thinking of food. You're no longer constantly thinking of your next meal. For the effort that you're making, you're also seeing results on a weighing scale. A lot of times people give up because they don't see that on the weighing scale. And as Doc said, I have also an 18-year-old daughter. What I would like to say is, as Doc said, and this is very close to my heart, that till we regulate food from the beginning, you are feeding your children glucose on overdrive from the beginning. Why is PCOD so rampant in these kids today, which it never was? Why is my 18-year-old having metformin? Because of the fact that the food they have access to, the food they have in school, it's all very, very high in releasing sugar, oxidative stress. There's just so much. It's not just the food. It's where the food is coming from. What is the hormone inside that food? There's a lot. That's why it's actually taking us back to the basic. Eat home food, clean, cooked, fresh, whatever is in season. Eat your ghee, eat your nuts, eat your protein. And that's what I want to tell all the Indian homes, that you really need to pay attention on the plate as your protein. We say, if I would say, divide your plate into a circle, Indians fill their plate is, if I divide it into half, the first half is chawal, the second 1/4 is sabzi, The fat, may be there because ghee mein banta hai, hopefully. That little bit at the bottom that's left is the protein. And technically the way you should be eating is half your plate should be vegetables, the 1/4 should be protein, the fat should be healthy, and whatever's at the bottom, that little circle that's left, that's your grain. So the chawal is not bad and neither is the roti. It's the way you are proportioning that food. You're giving your body such a insulin overdrive and a glucose rush that it is not being able to handle it. And the other thing is, you eat your food and then you just go and say, "Ek glass pani de do bhaiya, please." You don't even walk to get your water. So you're piling up all this sugar and all this insulin as a backup. Your body is not being able to digest it. So the more active you are, the more sugar you need. The more active you're not, the more sedentary you are as a race. You have to eat a certain way. And what I think is brilliant about these GLP-1 drugs, including a precursor like metformin, is that it really helps stabilize and balance sugar, insulin's response to sugar, and helps that pathway. But it also helps regulate for the GLP-1 drugs what's going on in your brain. Like a lot of people just cannot not think about food. So what's really helped is if I've seen friends of mine who are on the drug, "Doc, this is for you." I just had a chat with a friend of mine who was going to attend and then decided not to because people don't want to talk about the fact that, this is the other thing I want to tell you. People don't want to tell anybody who I'm on because everybody's made it like, "Oh, you're having the easy way out." Trust me, I have seen these 20 people, it is not an easy way out. They've gone through the first level 1 of side effects. They've stuck it out. They've gone to the gym. People who didn't exercise in their lives have made it to the gym because the drug has forced them to make it to the gym. They're eating a certain way. Every macro is counted. So trust me, in no way is it a magic pill. But I have seen these friends of mine who their blood work has become brilliant. People who had fatty livers, people who had hormonal imbalances. All of a sudden, within the 18 months of this cycle where they are currently, is that you have seen a massive improvement in blood work. Massive. So it's not just aesthetic, it's actually internal.
I think that's fantastic. I couldn't have said it better. And really, I mean, the plate thing I think deserves repetition because this is something that I repeat ad nauseum, if you will.
And second helping for Indians is always one more chawal. It's not one more dal.
So that's in childhood also. How many rotis did you have? How much chawal? It doesn't eat anything. Half the plate has to be veggies. Quarter plate has to be protein. And the rest you have your other stuff, This is important. Like a good example of that is Japanese. Japanese are the fittest, leanest in the world. And they are a rice-based society. But the amount they have is very different from what we do.
I want to pick up on something both of you have mentioned repeatedly about the signal, the decision to lose weight is made by the brain, not the stomach. Could you expand on that? Because one always I know the signals for hunger signals come from the brain, but are we saying that there are some people who are just not going to be able to lose weight?
So quite clearly there is a segment of people who are genuinely trying, and it's not a small segment, who are genuinely trying, and as she very rightly said, holidays are also planned around food. So everything is food. So food is sort of driving their lives. They're looking forward to the next meal and that is clearly coming from the brain. Obesity is a disease of the brain. Okay? If you can control your brain either by, yoga or pranayama or meditation or by using the help of drugs depending on which stage of weight you are on.
I'm confused. So obesity, are you saying you don't have discipline? People who don't have discipline are obese, or is it out of their hand because it's a medical issue?
Yeah, but of course, diabetes is a medical issue, but you have to practice lifestyle measures. So I'm certainly not saying that just blame everything on your brain wiring and say, I can't help it. That's completely wrong. But what I'm saying is you have to either be able to tutor your brain to an extent that, you're able to manage this. But if you're not, now we have tools that act directly on the gut-brain connection, these drugs, and they will help you in that. So that's the attitude. But you cannot fix obesity or overweight or whatever you call it. We call it these days ABCD because obesity is a stigma. So ABCD is adiposity-based chronic disease. So on the prescription, we don't write obesity because people say, I'm not obese, just write ABCD. So at least the doctors will understand. So I think because of the stigma, that's how. So I think you absolutely have to apply your lifestyle measures, give it a try. But research has shown if you're above a particular level of weight, if you have other complications, you really cannot do it very well.
So you dedicated this book to the brave souls who've survived countless diet plans for whom nothing seems to work.
I love that.
So, but Sumaya also said there's no magic pill, there's no magic solution. So please, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. All of us over here, I doubt there's anyone here who hasn't already researched this topic, right? So we all know the basics. But the one thing that leapt out for me in this book was when you said, you talk of outliers. And it says one must be ready for potential disappointment. How effective the drug can be for an individual can be a bit of a lottery. What are you saying, Doc? Because first we were all looking forward to this, right? So, what are these outliers and what is a non-responder?
Right. So, sure. So everything in medicine is based on statistics. So when we say statins work very well, when we say metformin works very well, there will be a certain percentage of people who don't respond for reasons we don't understand yet. So for example, with this drug there are two issues. Number one are discontinuation issues because of gastro side effects. About 10-15% people can't handle the nausea and also they discontinue. But there are others who are genuinely non-responders. So someone goes through this whole thing, spends a whole amount of money and loses 3 kilograms in 6 months. So that is another 10% or so, 10-15%. So there will be outliers. So when we talk to the patient, setting realistic expectation is very important. That's another thing that I keep talking to my younger colleagues. Set realistic expectation. Don't sound excited about the drug. So, for example, in whatever data we have now about more than 500 patients on these molecules. So, there will be, let's say we say, I expect on an average you lose at least 10% of your body weight. And maybe more. Some patients have lost 25-30%. But you tell them, my expectation is 10%, 12%. 10 to 15 is fantastic. But there is a small number of people who will not lose that. I think it's very important to tell that upfront. And not say, oh, मेरे patient का तो 35 kilos कम हो गया. उससे क्या होता है? सबका average तो नहीं देखना पड़ेगा. And the major research now is now identifying those who are responders. I mean, that's the biggest question. If you're really not going to be a responder, then are there genetic studies? Are there, So one small example I'll give you. People with diabetes respond less in terms of weight than people without diabetes. So when you hear 20% weight loss with tirzepatide, that is for non-diabetics. For people with diabetes, it might be 15%. So there is a difference between the response of people with diabetes and without. So people with diabetes lose little bit less weight. That is well understood, but there are so many other factors that are not.
But what is the end game? Because, do you continue forever? Do you taper off after 2 years? And the former FDA chief, David Kessler, also has written a book on this, which I'm sure you've read. And he said he struggled with maintaining his weight once he got off the medicine.
So I think there are two aspects to the question. There will be certain segment of people who are being given this drug like when they really need it because of so many medical conditions. So it's like any anti-diabetic I was using. So if a 55-year-old comes to me and is struggling with his diabetes control, weight, and you would add something, you would add insulin, you would do whatever. So if you add this drug, there is no reason to discontinue it unless there's a problem. But the challenge, which is unanswered, is 25-year-old girl, PCO, polycystic ovary, now is wanting to lose weight rightly because she's suffering because of weight, or plan a pregnancy. What do? You will give her this drug. Now, the problem is, A, when do you stop? Okay, maybe you reach a particular weight and you stop, which is what we'll do. If you stop suddenly, if you go cold turkey, the weight will bounce back on. So, and then, so let's take one extreme example, which will not be uncommon actually. So a girl with PCO wants to get pregnant and we want to help her lose weight. So we did that. She's lost 10, 12 kg. Everything is good now. Menstrual cycles are regular. She can plan pregnancy. But pregnancy doesn't happen in PCO sometimes for 6 months after you've stopped, because you have to stop the drug before you plan pregnancy. It can't be taken during pregnancy. So in that period of 3, 4, 6 months, the girl balloons up again, supposing. And then she gets pregnant. And then she puts on more weight. And then post-pregnancy weight loss. So those are areas that need to be defined. How to address them at the moment is to insist on protein in the diet and resistance exercise. This is crucial. If we don't do this, whenever we try to taper the drug, we'll face challenges. And I'm seeing that already. Those who are good with that are able to at least reduce their dose to bare minimum. Let's say they reached 15 milligram of tirzepatide. They are now well maintained on 2.5. Whereas those who did not follow that is a challenge.
It's 8:15, and I know many of you have questions. And as Rohit said in the beginning, that doctor is very hard to get. So this is your chance to ask the questions. Let's send out the mics.
Sure. Can I ask one person who's really important for this book? That is my co-author, who's flown back from Bangalore just for this event here. Shivam, please. This book would please come to the dais. Make your comments. This book wouldn't have been possible without him. He's actually done the dirty work of transcribing my nonsense, doing his own research, and I'm certain that his knowledge about GLP-1 is better than many medical professionals. Because he's really read everything there is to read.
Doc, you're embarrassing me.
Shivam is a journalist, so he's gone at it like a story and looked at every angle.
No, but I'm also on Ozempic myself, and I was Dr. Mithal's patient before I became his co-author. And as you were told in the beginning, it's really hard to get an appointment with him. And so when I was asked to help him write this book, I was like, this is my golden opportunity. I now have hours of time to ask him everything. And I did ask him everything I really wanted to know. And I'll just quickly say that I'm very impressed by Somaya here, who is a rare person in the fitness profession who is not opposing these drugs. Because the idea that you can lose weight with diet and lifestyle, and it's all about your self-discipline, it's your fault. I wanted validation from Dr. Mithal that it's not all my fault, right? And so I asked him how many people actually sustainably lose weight on their own, right? It doesn't come back. And he said very, very few. And he pointed me to research that shows that maximum 15-20% people across the world are able to keep their weight off. So we are told that millions of people across the world, such as myself, are unable to lose weight because we are basically into self-harm. We eat a lot of roti and chawal because because we would like to kill ourselves with diseases and diabetes, right? And I discovered that that's all bullshit because he said that 40 to 70% of obesity is genetic, right? So when you're told that you need to work harder, basically you're being told to work hard against your own genes, right? When you're told to, if you looked at my father who died of diabetes-related complications, and if you looked at me 2 years ago, you would say I'm a replica, right? And that's just one of the reasons why it's so hard to lose weight, genes, right? So I just emphasize that this book is not just about weight loss or weight loss drugs, but also a lot about obesity, metabolism, diabetes, and it was really fun and educative for me to work on this with Dr. Mithal. And I think it'll be useful for even those who don't want to take the drug. That's all.
Can I say something just as a closing? I just want to say something. As a fitness professional, when people come to train with me, and I've been, like I said, doing it for so many years, I've seen varied populations from 20-year-olds to 70-year-olds, I see myself today more as a counselor than as a trainer. I'm a personal trainer by profession who studied masters in sports science, so I've done anatomy, physiology, sports nutrition, all of it. But when I'm sitting in front of someone, and if some of you in the room do train with me, you know I'm actually counseling you here to tell you that when you come to my gym, don't come to my gym thinking you're going to lose weight. That's not where the weight loss is happening. The weight loss is happening in the kitchen. When you come to the gym, think about building muscle, think about training, think about improving your muscle mass, improving your mobility, improving strength, but the weight loss is not happening in the gym. So I want to, in fact, I started throwing people out of my gym because everyone's coming here all of a sudden post-pandemic. I see everyone's training for 2 hours. Why? There's such a cortisol overload. You need to find your sweet spot. And what this drug does is, it helps you find the sweet spot. You're not, in a lack of better words, you're not killing yourself because you're trying to lose weight. Because weight loss, you don't need to kill yourself. When your hormones are settled, when your body's in a perfect harmony, you will automatically lose weight. That's how the body is designed. All this drug does is brings your body in some kind of a harmony. And just to answer your one question about weight loss, speed of weight loss, even within the gym environment, I see people and I tell people, don't ask me how many kilos I'm going to lose, because that's so individual. But how many kilos can you safely lose? Anywhere between 0.5 to 1 kilogram per week. So let's assume, let's be safe, scientifically, medically, you lose 2 kilos a month. So by the end of the year, how much weight have you lost? So for the numbers, and with some people it happens sooner, and with some people, weight loss takes time to kick in. But once it kicks in, it really does find a nice sweet spot. So the drug, like in my own experience, when now that I'm training so many people on the drug, it is like any other. It's just trying to bring your body back into harmony. Some people may lose the initial 5 kilos faster because, hey, when you are 30 kilos overweight, it's very easy to lose the first 5. But when you're already closer to your body weight, it's tougher. So with some people, the initial weight loss is more. With some people, the latter part is not. But all the sets of people I have seen, and that's numbers going up to 20, 25 now, they're all safely within 2 years losing 20 kilos. A friend of mine is advocating, she didn't want to be here today, but she said if I could openly tell people I was on the drug, I'm like, but why wouldn't you? Help other people. She's gotten rid, and I don't know, doc, if there's any scientific research on it, but she told me that her lipedema of her legs has become so much better. Because the GIP pathway helps with muscle anabolism, which helps preserve muscle. So Mounjaro that way actually is just a better combination than Ozempic straight away. Doc, am I right?
So it's
you can actually guide people, because everybody thinks Ozempic and Mounjaro are similar, and only Mounjaro is an advanced drug which has lesser side effects. That's actually not true.
So, we talked about GLP. So, Mounjaro goes one step further. It is GLP and GIP both. So, there are certain advantages to Mounjaro. One being that, again, on an average and statistically, you lose about 10% more weight with Mounjaro than you do with Ozempic or Wegovy. In India, it's Wegovy, not Ozempic. So, that is there. The muscle effects are now being seen with Ozempic also. So what I'm trying to explain is that this is a very good point you brought up. And I'm sure someone would have asked that. What about muscle loss? Muscle loss is not an effect of the drugs. The drugs are actually good for the muscle. It's just losing weight. So when we lose weight, if you lose weight by a drastic diet, if you lose weight, by bariatric surgery, you would lose significant. So roughly 20%. And in some cases, up to 30% of the weight you lose is your muscle. So to circumvent that with the drugs, the same thing again. Diet, exercise, and so let me give you my fear about proteins. So, let's say Indians are not great protein eaters anyway, consumers. So our protein intakes are often, unsupervised, they're quite low, especially in vegetarian diets. Now, let's say I was consuming 2,000 calories, and I was having 40 gram protein, let's say. This is not unusual in our clinics. And now my diet has become 1,000 calories because I've started this medication. So if it goes in proportion, my protein will become 20 grams. So you really need help in that. Don't poke yourself with these drugs without getting proper diet advice, joining a plan, someone who knows about these drugs. So I think that's very important.
Is there a difference? Yeah. Any questions, please? Just this gentleman at the back.
So I think that's very, very important. So the short-term effects I've already told you. Everyone knows there's stomach distension, nausea, sometimes even vomiting. Some people get constipation. So a little bit more nausea with Ozempic, a little bit more constipation with Mounjaro. I mean, those things are subtle differences, but that is the first thing. You are worried about long-term side effects, right? So long-term side effects actually are not common. One, of course, is weight loss, which is muscle loss, which is linked to the weight loss, as I just explained. What about other things? People... Sorry? Yeah, I'm coming to that. So the other thing is that those who have a history of pancreatitis should not take the drug. Although it's unclear if the drug itself these drugs can cause pancreatitis, if at all it's exceedingly rare, but those who have history of pancreatitis, it's prudent to stay away. Those who have family history of thyroid cancer, a particular type of thyroid cancer, they should not use it. But that's very rare. It's theoretical. We screen for that before we start, but it's exceedingly rare. The other one is the eye thing you were asking. Now that is, there is data now from large registries suggesting that there may be an increase in certain eye conditions over long-term use, optic nerve conditions, and also macular degeneration. Now, firstly, this is not established yet. These are just cross-sectional data. It's not follow-up data. And number two, they are exceedingly rare. If at all, they are established. So, what is the prudent thing to do? It's not enough to sort of, worry about using the drug. But it is important to people must ask me every day, why do you write a complete eye exam? Every time we start the medicine, I just want to start it tomorrow. But you are insisting on an eye examination. Well, supposing someone has an underlying condition in the eye, then I won't start. So, follow the basics, follow the doctor. I think overall safety is very, very good.
Once you take it, are you on it for life? And number two, what's the actual process like? So one visits a doctor, and then do we start on monthly injections, weekly? What's the rough cost structure, stuff like that?
So I think on life I've already said, those who have severe disease, significant disease, will possibly end up being on it for life. Those who are looking for a 10 kg weight loss and that's been advised, then they can probably taper it off to a reasonable level. But someone is like BMI of close to 40, actually bariatric surgery required, then they are being managed with the drug, they will probably need it for life. And those who have diabetes and other complications will also probably need it for life. So at the moment, it's a weekly injection. It's a self-inject like insulin. They're pens, you just inject. It's not complicated at all. You don't have to go to the doctor for the injection at all, or even to a nurse or anybody. So what is the third thing? About cost, we already said. The cost at the moment, I think, is around 13 to 17K a month. At the moment. I have no sort of solid knowledge of this, but reliable sources tell me that one of the drugs goes off patent next year, and we expect the price to come there. If it goes off patent, our companies will make it like this. They probably already have made it, if I'm not wrong. So they're just waiting for the regulation. So the prices will come down significantly.
Hello.
Yeah,
Ambrish.
Dr. Sethi, yes.
I take you back. I'm actually representing 10, 12 people of our group. We met 50 years ago and we grew, and at that time we ate everything which was available in your room. We tried to save ye mat khao, ye mat khao. Abhi bhi yehi bol raha hai, ye mat khao, ye mat khao. That's all right. Now, this is what I call it, to convey from all the group, which are the core group of our medical college, and we stood together and been progressed so much. And we are all very happy, glad for you where you are there now. With our wishes, we used to pray कि Ambrish to first आ जाए, हम pass हो ना हो, doesn't matter. that was the usual, and we used to copy your notes and whatever. Long life has passed actually, yes, but we are still, yes, love you.
So for those of you who don't know, thank you so much. Dr. Sethi is the chief surgeon at Holy Family, one of the best general surgeons and gallbladder surgeons in the city, very well known. But that's how he is. Thank you so much, Rajiv. Thanks a lot.
Is there a difference on of how the efficacy of these medicines on males, on men and women? Because Sumaya, I'm sure you have couples who come to you, give them both a similar plan because they're in the same household, and the husband starts putting creamer in his milk and he's lost 6 kgs, and the wives are like struggling for every half a kg.
That, but all I can say is women's bodies are very complicated. Our hormones fluctuated on an hourly basis. So, I'm sure the drug factors that in, and, men probably have a better head start. But, hey, we get saved from heart disease till we have our period. So we have a plus point there. But I don't know, Doc.
So I think little bit the data suggests that women do better on. Yeah. Some little data, but it's not like really very striking. As I said, statistics. But I've seen it the other way more commonly. At the moment, the couple I mentioned in the book, this gentleman came for both have diabetes, both are patients for 20 years, and they'll follow anything I say. So they're very reliable couple. But nothing is ever controlled because they don't follow anything. So now with this drug, the husband has lost 13, 14 kilograms. He's off all medication. Nothing. Everything is stopped. Insulin, this, that, so it was a problem only in the eating. So the Munjaro has led to a complete cessation of drugs. He has lost 13 kilograms. His wife, over the same period, started the same time, same food, same house. She lost 3 kilograms. So I had to bump up her dose. Well, they came yesterday. So the good news is they came yesterday. So I increased her dose, even though she wasn't that overweight as he was. And actually now she's lost about 9 kilograms. But she needs a higher dose than her husband, who actually, on the face of it, would look like he would require a higher dose. So.
Wouldn't that be because of the fact that especially when women come in their 40s, they probably have a lot of perimenopausal symptoms, hormones all over the place. So anyway, whether it's estrogen dominance or the other way around, those are factors that anyway affect weight.
Yeah.
And because of that, the GLP-1 drugs are not, they don't have the same baseline to start with. That's probably why.
That's very possible. But as I said, some of the data indicates the reverse.
Yeah,
so we'll wait to see our own data before we
But I want to say something. I have 2 friends of mine who started the drug at the same time. Both of them have lost considerable amount of weight. But you must understand, one of the things that the drugs do is they send signals to your brain saying, okay, I'm full. Okay, so for a lot of period of time, all of a sudden you'll notice that you're not as hungry. So you're probably eating 2, maximum 3 meals a day because also you're not hungry. Now, one friend of mine who was not that hungry, continued to eat shit, crap, food, not paying attention. That's when the Ozempic face hit her so hard and her hair was falling off. Because, here's my take, because there is something known as eating a nutrient-dense diet. It does not mean whether you're calorifically in the same count as me. But if and I may be slightly lower than you, but if each of my meals are more nutrient-dense than yours, I'm anyway winning. So the other friend of mine who went by the book, weight trained 5 days a week, was upping her protein to 1 gram, 1.2, 1.4. Now she's losing weight. Her hair is great. Her skin is great. In fact, her skin is looking better. And I can see Dr. Soin, she'll agree with the glycation of the skin, which is so sugar-rated. So all the people who are really cutting out sugar, you can see their skin is glowing. Whereas this other friend of mine, her hair is all gone because she's devoid of nutrition, I guess. And her skin is looking aged, Ozempic face maybe, if that's what it's called, because she probably didn't pay attention to her protein and her training. Because of rapid weight loss, and it's not the drug. If anybody who loses 40 kilos, come on, you're going to have volume loss on your face and your ass. Doc, am I right?
100%. So a very
Not the medicine.
rapid weight loss and unregulated use and without paying attention to the nutrition, which is really, really important, But patients sometimes, some listen very carefully and follow, but some of them it's like water off a duck's back. Completely, they just want the medicine. ये सब तो पहले भी मालूम था, ये क्या नया बता रहे हैं. We always knew this, but I need something more. So then they feel अभी दवाई चल गई, अब सब ठीक हो जाएगा. Sorry, Bhavna.
Should we take a couple of questions back to back?
Okay, the first thing that I needed to know was that if it is for weight loss that you're recommending this medicine, what is the base BMI below which it is not a protocol?
So the approved indication for these drugs at the moment, without any comorbidities, without any diabetes, without fatty liver, without hypertension, is 30 BMI. And for those who have some comorbidities, it is 27. That's the presently approved indication, although we won't go into the science, but basically this is where it is. Although we all know the challenges of BMI and all those things, but we're not going there. Broadly speaking, this is the indication.
So the other thing is that, since you all have been mentioning that this has other benefits apart from just weight loss.
Yes.
So, especially for post-menopausal women or women like me who've had hysterectomies and are facing a lot of hormone turmoil, is it also something that can be given to handle that kind of impact that one faces, like the lack of hormones after a surgery or a menopause?
Not really. It's so like we discovered that these drugs reduce diabetes complications independent of their effects on blood sugar. Similarly, now the focus of research is what do these drugs do independent of their effect on weight? And I think that's very important. That's the whole area of research. So for example, not with the symptoms you are describing, but the most exciting for me is the putative effect at the moment on Alzheimer's. So reducing Alzheimer's, reducing cognitive dysfunction. And apparently if you reduce brain fat, you actually get improvements in those conditions. So it's very open right now. What is established is diabetes, weight, reduction in heart risk, reduction in renal disease, and fatty liver. Rest, there are lots of very exciting implications. But sleep apnea, again linked to the weight primarily. It's approved for sleep apnea.
Thank you.
Let's take a few questions back to back.
Hi, I was with a friend yesterday and she told me that her husband is following this diet that, Vidya Balan was recommended by Amura Healthcare. So just curious, in 2 months it seems the gentleman has lost 16 kgs. So Amura Healthcare, which is, so that's an anti-inflammatory diet. So I'm just curious about that.
I'll take that question.
Sure, thanks.
Like I said, there is no magic pill. And the reason why there are so many studies which are being said upon how it's like Alzheimer's is getting reduced, hormonal imbalances, because sugar is the root cause of... Now that's doc, in the medical community you are recognizing that sugar is really the root cause of a lot of things, right? So cancer, inflammation, gut, etc., etc. So inflammation again is a byproduct of eating a lot of processed food, a lot of sugar, a lot of too many grains if you're not doing that. So when somebody says I've gone to XYZ nutritionist and I've lost 10, 12, 13 kilos, please let me tell you, they have gone down to the basic. Like there is no magic diet. They are just making sure they're eating according to their gut health, number one, because an apple may be good for you, but it may not be good for you. So the first thing is to understand what suits your gut, number one. Number two, but once you have been able to figure out what works for your gut, which is individualistic, after that, the macros are divided pretty similarly. You need to have your protein, you need to have your fat, you need to have your fiber coming from fruits and vegetables, and you need to cut down the grains, and of course, no sugar, no processed food. Inflammation तो वैसे ही उतर जाएगी. मैं अगर आप मुझे promise करोगे the entire audience to follow a simple plan which I can actually even give generically, all of you will feel lighter, will feel less inflamed, and will feel more productive within the first 2 weeks of the plan. The weight actually is just inflammation which you are carrying. Like I said, when your body is in harmony, you automatically lose weight. So this drug is just getting you into harmony when you have insulin sensitivity issues and more stuff, which is more medical, but it really is doing just that. Am I right, Doc?
I think you're absolutely right. The challenges of doing that, of course, you are very well aware, as we've already spoken about, but it is the truth. So, for example, the government is now saying, AIMS Nagpur has taken the initiative or something about putting up posters about unhealthy food in cafeterias, about samosa and jalebi in particular. It's not a bad idea, but I think there are... What is low-hanging fruit in this is all the packaged namkeens and the packaged foods we get.
It's the oils, Doc.
So that is trans fats. Everything is wrong.
Oils,
there's carbs and trans fats.
Yeah. And if you eat out of a packet and you don't recognize what's in that and it says INS 157, melted dextrin and all of these things, if you don't understand this, it's not for you. You're not meant to consume it. So anything which has that stuff is not meant.
So I'll just comment on just one line here, that it does not mean that you become a sadhu. Okay? I think our soul also has to be satisfied. So an occasional cheat is always allowed in every plan. So it's the portion size that becomes a crucial thing. If you're eating the right food, if you're eating the wrong food in particular, then, if you can control your portions, you can enjoy once in a while. So it's not that we are saying no one can have all the food that we've been told or the food that we enjoy all our lives. You just have to control it. You have to reduce the portion. And if you fill your stomach up with healthier food before you go in that direction, you'll automatically reduce the intake.
But no, dude, the medicine helps in that. So for a lot of people who used to take this medicine, they used to say, if there's a whole piece of cake lying there, they would eat the whole piece. Yeah. Now the same people have come back and said, oh, I'm okay with eating 2-3 bites. But that's the medicine that's done it.
Yeah. So I think these medicines are definitely known to change your preferences, food preferences. That's really important. Although again, it's not the same for everybody. But classically, people develop an aversion to unhealthy food, more to unhealthy food. There are others who don't. The others who will have the unhealthiest but small portions. But classically, you develop an aversion to sweets, alcohol. There are people who just cannot tolerate the sight of alcohol after going on GLP-1. So that's another big area that's being researched. Can it be used? Where can it be used for people who have some kind of proclivity for alcohol?
Well, I'm told we've kindly been given another 15 minutes. So let's get in some questions. Go ahead.
So I'm asking this question to the of these drugs have a lot of GI side effects.
Yes.
So how does gut microbiome? We know that it has a lot of impact on the entire body. Does these drugs impact the gut microbiome?
So the early days at the moment, but the gut microbiome action is favorable. But it's not clearly proven yet. So I think in a few months we'll have a lot of good answers on that.
Do you use any DEXA scan or parameters before you prescribe? That's one. Two, is there any cytogenetic testing you offer it to anyone who comes with a BMI 27? Because BMI is falsely interpreted. I can be 27 BMI with more healthy body compared to someone who's 25 or 24. So it's an easy way out to lose weight. So I get patients who, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, so I get patients who come with this drug, they have severe muscle loss, and that is the worst thing. I feel the biggest currency is your muscle mass. And we are not at all focusing on that. Do you ask them, have you tried other methods of reducing weight? Or straight away come with a BMI 28 and ask you for a drug and get a test and I get it done?
So, we are not surgeons. So we actually do talk to the patient a lot. So one thing is, just a joke. So basically we always insist on lifestyle measures. Now there is no way of knowing whether the person is lying to you or not. If someone comes to me and says, I have tried everything, I exercise, I eat the diet you prescribed, nothing is happening, I'll have to believe that. Now, I completely share your concern about muscle loss, not just for skeleton, but also because if you lose a lot of muscle, your insulin resistance goes up. So that's another counter impact of losing muscle. But the important thing to understand is that these drugs do not promote muscle loss. They promote weight loss and you lose some muscle as part of it. So if people are going to use them randomly, exactly as you said, with just a BMI of 27 and without making an effort, without exercising, without taking enough protein, then definitely there's a danger. That's exactly what we are talking about. So I agree with you 100% that we don't want to have a whole population of sarcopenic individuals who are breaking their bones and, getting into all kinds of trouble. But, you'll have to believe your patient when they say what they say.
I had one question, and that was, how does one person know, just on a regular day-to-day basis, that they have inflammation? That's one. Without going to somebody, right? I don't need to go to a dietitian. Just how do I get to know on a normal day-to-day basis that I'm inflamed? That's one. And second is, this conversation is helpful, but I think one point I wanted to make is, and that's from my own experience, is that food or eating, I think for most of us is emotional. I've gone through anorexia for 10 years, and I've kind of gone through the journey of anorexia, recovered, etc., all of that. For me, food was always emotional. It was, when I was triggered emotionally, that's when I would kind of go in for food, or if I was insecure, I would go in for food. So how does Ozempic, if at all, help with that on a long-term basis? Because there have been studies that have been shown that people do get into depression in long-term with Ozempic. I don't know how true that is. There are enough and more studies floating around. But I just want to get a sense of that as well.
So I'll take the second question, you take the first one. So the second question is about the impact of these drugs on mental health, right? So it's yielded very conflicting results. Overall, depression goes down when people lose weight. Overall, they feel better. Now, the issue is that those who are severely obese often have underlying depression and such issues. And at the moment, there is no convincing evidence that using these drugs leads to an increase in depression. However, if you notice that in a patient, you should taper them off. Because you don't want any, especially if it's major depression. So by and large, the impact on mental health seems to be positive. The impact on aggravating depression is not convincing. But as we said, these are, still in that sense early days, yeah.
Just to add to Doc's point, also in primarily sugar in general and people who don't metabolize sugar really well, which is why the GLP-1 drugs also help people who are severely insulin resistant, maybe not full-blown diabetic. So if you see research on kids who are, you'll see more and more kids being diagnosed with ADHD now. And one of the most underlying reasons of why that is happening is because of our diets and the ability for the children not to metabolize sugar really well. So I think these drugs really, I agree with Doc, and in my opinion and experience as well, now I've seen quite a number of people who've seen actually impacting them more positively than the other way around, because being overweight is pretty depressive for most people anyway. When you're constantly thinking about food, when anything emotional is dependent on food, I think the fact that the GLP pathway cuts that, I would think makes you better anyway. That's one. Two, inflammation, honestly, unless you do some blood work and you have some telltale signs, you really don't know whether you're in inflammation. But I can tell you certain points where you may feel that you want to have a look at your system and what's happening is, if you wake up in spite of having a good night's sleep, in spite of doing things correct, you're waking up feeling not 100% on a regular basis. You try and fix that with eating a certain way, sleeping a certain way, and you're still constantly struggling with, bloating, diarrhea, joint pain, sluggishness, or feeling brain fog. You could have inflammation and inflammation doesn't have to be overblown, but excess sugar does cause inflammation. So a lot of the times when people say, I've gone on that Vidya balanced diet and inflammation has gone down, is because all the crap has been taken out and all of a sudden you can think again. So I know a lot of people who I've worked with on nutrition. The first thing for me, it's not about the weight. It really is not. For me, the answer that I want from them is, oh my God, I'm feeling like $1 million. And that is really, I think, where wellness in general is coming to, where you can wake up in the morning not feeling, and you'd be surprised. People are used to feeling sluggish. They don't know what is life the other way. Only when you experience the other way, that's when the lifestyle change happens. When you experience the other side is you don't want to go back to the dark side. And the other side is almost like a revelation. It's like, oh, you don't even see that side of the world existed. So if you're feeling sluggish and you're constantly feeling like you're not 100%, you have bloating issues, digestive issues, you have aches and pains here and there, definitely worth. And there are enough blood markers to check inflammation now.
So another thing that helps the patients feel much better is they see their HbA1c is down to 6 suddenly. They haven't seen a 6 or 6.5 in their lives. They've always been 8, 9, 10. And suddenly, in 3 months, the A1c is crashed and their medicines are going off. That's a huge psychological boost. Yeah. They feel very positive about that.
My question is that you are recommending again and again for the more proteins and all. We are pure vegetarians. So with this drug, how we can take more proteins? Is it suggested that the protein powders, which is strong food or something, are these recommended in the diet, and how much, and according to the weight and whatever you suggest, it is recommended or not?
Of course. Scientifically, from our doctors, you need to have 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein regardless for you to be in comatose in bed and just have regular metabolic functions. The moment you start, and now those guidelines are changing, according to me it should be 1.2, but we'll wait for the FDA to say that. But the moment you're exercising, it goes up to 1.2 plus. Now yes, being a vegetarian, it is challenging because then the volume of food becomes more because you need to get that kind of protein in. But having said that, if you actually really map out your food and understands which proteins are more bioavailable to the body, जो अच्छे से absorb होते हैं, which is like, so for example, chane ki dal is not a high quality protein, as vegetarians may think, but a sprouted moong ki dal is very high in bioavailability of protein. So are your nuts, so are your seeds, so is tofu, so is chana, so yes, you may have to actually put in a lot more work, whereas I can eat 5 egg whites and roll on, but you will have to put in a lot more work to figure out. And honestly, protein shakes have been villainized. They are not bad. They are made for people like you who are not being able to mark it. Right now I feel I'm giving a lecture to my mom-in-law because she's vegetarian and all her surgeons, as she's closer to ages of 72, 75, her bone issues are because she was always vegetarian, never ate enough protein, and for her food meant aapne roti nahi khai, you didn't take a second helping of protein. Every doctor, wherever she's touching, whether it's an orthopedic surgeon, whether it's a UTI doctor, everyone has told her you need to up your protein. So guess what? Who has a protein shake now is my mother-in-law. Her glass is filled with protein shake today first than mine. So just find a good quality protein shake which is free of too many preservatives. A whey isolate is great. So are plant proteins. So protein shakes are honestly to help people like you make up for that protein. What you need to actually do is do the maths. You need to have your body weight at least of protein. So if you weigh 60 kilos, you need to be ingesting at least 60 grams of protein, which means 100 grams of chicken is not 100 grams of protein. 100 grams of chicken is only 22 grams of protein. One egg is only 3 to 6 grams depending on the size. Now you do the maths. So automatically when you start thinking I need to make that 60 grams, baki sara crap to chale hi jayega. You'll start making sure your second helping is more of the protein foods.
I just want to ask one question. When we talked about the non-responders, one issue perhaps if we can touch upon endocrine disruptors. Nowadays, you said you have an 18-year-old daughter. We have this global worrying phenomena where you have teenage girls going into Sephora and they're asking for skin care for their birthday gifts. And how is that likely to play out going into the future?
I think endocrine disruptors are here to stay, it looks like. There are so many discoveries in that area. Virtually every few months there is some. Endocrine disruptors may well be one of they are present in plastics, for example, and so many of the things that we use. They are very likely to be a contributor along with just our diets to the epidemic of non-communicable disease we are seeing. So I think as our understanding will improve, we will realize that we need to tackle those on a more serious footing and not just say what we are saying today. And there will be more in terms of... endocrine disruptors are chemicals that are found in our day-to-day things, which can influence our hormones. And influence our... So a lot of people think that PCO increase is linked to endocrine disruptors. As much as it is diet. So it's a big area and it's difficult to summarize it in one sort of sentence, but they're all around us. And the more synthetic stuff we are using, the more we are getting exposed to them.
Well, I think we have to wind up now because we want Doctor to be able to autograph his books, sign them for you personally, and so you all can buy them.
Excuse me? I have a question if you can allow.
And this gentleman standing, if we're going to, then let's just take two last and then head out for the book signings.
Doctor, you said that the diabetics respond differently to this medicine. So I have somebody who is close in my family. He was put on this medication and he managed to get through level 1, then level 2 also. But the short-term side effects were so intense that he could not continue. He was so demotivated that he just lost all the energy, all the motivation. So one is how to keep someone motivated for it, to just continue and have the best results. And secondly, does these short-term side effects persist as long as the medication goes?
I think that's a great question, and that's something we have to answer every day in the clinic. Yes, by definition, these are short-term side effects. And in most patients whom we can handhold through the first few weeks, they settle nicely. The thing is that you will have to watch what you eat when you're on these drugs. So, for example, if you don't feel hungry for 10 hours, then you suddenly gorge yourself on food, you'll feel sick. So those who control their portion size and the distribution of their diet better are able to tolerate them better. Having said that, there are some who just will not tolerate them, then it's okay to try other means. I mean, as I said, it's never 100%. Yes, sir.
My question is related to probably what she asked. How much of doctor's oversight is required when a patient is using this medicine? And if yes, what kind of frequency?
So, I think some kind of supervision is required. Firstly, definitely at the time of prescription, and some connect maybe not with the doctor but with the educator or the nutritionist in the team or any other app-based program or a program like this. There has to be some connect, and definitely the doctor's skill will primarily be after you've started on the drug and you're doing okay. Number one is managing the side effects. Number two, deciding dose escalation and de-escalation. That's where people are making a lot of mistakes already. So I was traveling, so I stopped it, and now I came back and I started the full dose again. How can you start 10 milligram Munjaro again? You can't. You have to start again with 2.5 or 5. So those little nuances will have to be there. I suspect a lot of this will be virtual and online as we go along, without requiring physical visits. At least for those who are just using it for weight loss. For your diabetes, in any case, you have to see the doctor. But I think the weight loss programs will definitely have a lot of online component to make it easier for the people.
All right, thank you. We're going to let Dr.
One last comment.
Please, of course.
So the last comment is to thank 3 people. Thank all of you, but 3 in particular. One is Rohit. He's disappeared. So who actually came up with this idea? We have a formal book launch next month in Delhi, but he said you must do one in Gurgaon and you must do one in Quorum. So I'm not a Quorum member and I don't live in Gurgaon, so I of course have come here for some programs with Shekhar and everything. But so thanks for pushing me into this. Thank you very much. A second person, and many of you may not know her, is Rekha Sharma ji, who is actually, she was the chief nutritionist at All India Institute when I started my endocrine career, 1984. So she's the one who taught me the basics of food and nutrition. She used to be on the rounds all the time, and she used to keep telling us why professor is saying this, why you have to change this. We used to, those are different days, we used to check the trolleys of the patient, the side tables also, to see if they were hiding food. And we found laddus many times. You know, so that kind of thing, and I've learnt a lot about food and nutrition. And lastly, of course, my wife, Ranjana, who's a successful professional herself at the Apollo, who made the trek from Apollo to here. I was really amazed. Why does she want to come? But she did. She hears this nonsense all the time and doesn't listen. But anyway, so thank you very much. Thank you.